when I was probably 8 years old, my mom took me to a movie theater to watch a movie. I do not remember which movie we were going to watch. In Sweden, movie theaters, the seating situation is numbered. So you look at your ticket, you got a row, you got a seat number, you're going to a certain place. In America, it's just like, just go in there and find a seat, you know? Here, the story takes place in Sweden. I'm looking at my ticket. I find my row. We're about to walk into the row, but there's a lady sitting all the way out in the aisle, like adjacent to the aisle. And I'm a little kid. And so we arrive there where we are about to walk into the row. And when you sort of hover there, people notice that that you want to get in there. So you don't even have to say anything. People usually just get up, right? This is how humans work. And so what happened is that this lady starts shifting her legs to the side so that we can get through, but she's also getting up. And I misread the situation. And she shifts her legs to the side, and I'm a little kid, so I'm like, I can get through there. So I just squeezed through. And she was actually getting up completely because she wanted to get up completely to give us a lot of space and to not feel so crowded. And I didn't give her enough time to get up. And I just squeezed through because I'm a little kid and I don't give a fuck. And I can hear my mom say something behind me about how I was being rude. And I don't remember the wording, but I remember the feeling. And that's the whole memory. And that memory has passed through my mind probably 4 times a week, every week, my entire life. And it happened, maybe 23 years ago. So, yeah, like, what is that? Like, what is that about? Why is it like that? Why is memory like that? And it's like, it's not an important... I am of two minds, though, because it's like, was that the birth of shame for me? Was that the first time I felt shame? Was that the first time I realized, like, that I am also a person that can be viewed from the outside and that can be judged? And, like, my mom says something where she's like, oh, you mean you really could have let her wait, or you really could have let her get up, or you really, whatever she said. She didn't even say it. She didn't yell at me. She was like my mom just said some comment to, like, smooth it over, to, like, show to the lady that my mom is not oblivious to how her son is a little bit, like, just going for it here, and maybe, like, didn't handle that situation perfectly. Now, in his defense, he's 8 years old, So that's a memory. Yeah, I mean, maybe that was the birth of shame for me, and maybe that's how it works. I don't know. Now that I say it like that, it almost reminds me of that incredible movie. Is it called Inside Out? Where it's like a Disney movie. It's a 3D animated kind of deal where some of the characters are inside the head of this young girl, and every time she experiences something, it turns into a memory, and the memory is represented with these, like, bowling ball sized big yellow spheres that roll down on this track. And then good memories are one color. And it's just like this incredibly simple but pedagogic depiction of the inside of the mind. I love that movie. And in the movie, there are these, I can't remember what they're called, but they're like the keystone memories. They're the important foundational memories that become foundations for your, oh my God, this ties into the next thing I was thinking about. Like, in that movie, you have these experiences, these keystone memories that bloom into entire aspects of your personality. So, like, I think in the movie, the example is something about hockey where she's like a girl. It's like kind of a little bit of a contrived progressive thing where they like, ooh, let's make it a girl and let's make her play hockey. And it's like, yeah, we get it, guys. We get it. It's a liberal movie. It's all good. Like, anyone can do anything. You don't have to overdo it. But so this girl plays hockey, and she has some early memory where someone says something encouraging about her playing hockey, and she just like hangs on to that, and it blooms into this whole thing where she like starts enjoying hockey more and more and more, and it becomes a huge part of her personality. And it's all contingent on this one basic early memory. And then later in the movie, that memory is removed, and a whole part of her, she has like a negative experience. Someone like makes fun of her for hockey or something, and that memory is just unplugged, and that whole part of her personality shuts down, which is exactly what happened to me in this next thing where like, bro, this is so embarrassing to talk about. Oh, and it's so abstract and so difficult to talk about. But let me just try to explain first what happened in completely practical terms. I am in like 3rd grade, okay? In 3rd grade in Sweden, you have like geography class, which is this super basic thing where the teacher just like pulls down a world map, has a stick, points to a country, and just like talks about that country for like 30 minutes. And then throughout a whole semester, you just like talk about all the countries a little bit. So as a kid, you just have this, all that like very superficial, but still very, there's a great variety of information that washes over you during these geography classes. I don't know what geography looks like in other places, but that's what our geography class was like. And then you can kind of, there's a little bit of a give and take. You can kind of raise your hand and ask questions. You can say things. You know, it's a fairly open space. And then I think I didn't read the room very good when I was in 3rd grade, okay? I didn't get it very good. And, oh, it's so shameful. And what happened is that we got to Southeast Asia, and my grandparents had just visited, I think it was like Phuket. Phuket might be in Thailand. I don't even, like, it's funny how I didn't look into any of this, so I don't know. But there's like a Phuket, there's Bali, there's Thailand. These are 3 places. Who knows which one of those is a country and which one of those is like, I mean, Phuket is a city, I guess, and Thailand is a country, and Bali is a country, maybe. The reason I don't know is like part of the story here. My grandparents visited this place, okay? And they brought back a couple of stories that they told me. And they gave me a hat. And it was a weird hat. It was a cap with a brim, and the back of it, it's like a safari hat. The back of it has these 2 flaps that cover your neck so that you don't get so that your neck, the back of your neck does not get sunburned. Okay? That's the hat. It has a deep black color outside, and it has a very, very colorful neon pattern lining. That's the hat. And it probably says Phuket or Bali or something on the front of it. That's the hat that they buy in a fucking tourist store in Southeast Asia in 1995 or 3 or whenever this story takes place, okay? That's what they buy. They bring back a couple of stories about stuff that happened, and this hat, okay? And then when we are talking our way through Southeast Asia in 3rd grade in the classroom, I do not read the room well, and I raise my hand and tell a story that they told, even though we're not even talking about Thailand yet. We're talking about like the Philippines or whatever. We're talking about some country next to it. And I'm piecing this together because the thing I did was I raised my hand every day, several days in a row, I think, to say, hey, did you know my grandparents just went there? My grandparents just went to Thailand and this story thing happened and I told the story and everyone was just like, okay, yeah, we're going to let this sort of oblivious kid tell a story again. And then on the third or fourth day, I raised my hand, and what I say on that day was that they brought me back the hat, okay? And then what happened is that this guy, his name is Christian. That was his name. I do not remember his last name. I would love to dox him. He raised his hand. No, I raised my hand. I say the thing like, did you know my grandparents were there and like they brought me back this hat? And then I'm sitting in like the third row and he's sitting in the first row and he turns around and he looks at me and in a totally deadpan, a little bit annoyed, very matter-of-fact way, he just says, look, bro, we do not give a fuck that your grandparents went to Thailand. And we don't give a fuck that they gave you that hat. And we don't give a fuck about any of that. And like, stop talking about how your grandparents went to Thailand. That's what he said to me. And then I think the teacher said something which was like, oh, bro, I think you're being a little bit too hard on him here. So like, just bring it back a little bit. Like, we are all tired of hearing Joakim tell a story about how his goddamn fucking grandparents went to Thailand. Like, we're all sick of it, I know, but you're being a little bit too harsh. But I did not hear the teacher say this. I did not really hear it because at that point, it's like a grenade has exploded and there's just this loud beeping noise. It's like the Hurt Locker. It's like, this is like this beep and like muffled voices because I'm just within myself at this moment because again, it is a moment of a birth of some new feeling that I've never felt. Of like incredible, devastating. I mean, I guess it's shame again. Like, I guess I guess all these memories, because this is also a memory that just like about every 36 hours, this memory just like floats through my mind. And before I started meditating, it would float through my mind and I wouldn't notice it. And now that I meditate, I'm like, I just like thought about that thing again. And, I guess it's shame again, you know? So the connection with the movie Inside or Inside Out or whatever it's called, like, I think it's called Inside Out, is that I think maybe I was like really interested in geography for a while. And then, and then Christian, he said this like absolutely devastating thing where he reached into my soul the way it's conceived in the movie Inside Out, and he grabbed the Keystone Early memory and he unplugged it and it went dark and it went black in his hand. And then, like in the movie, you can look out over the vast landscape of a person's personality depicted in all these like colorful, weird, like parts of the landscape, like different biomes that are different parts of their personality. And when he unplugs that, this sort of like rich, fun amusement park looking part of my mind and personality, which is my geography interest, just like goes black. It's like you just unplugged it. The whole amusement park, just like everything stops and all the people just die. They just like go zombie and then they just fall over. And that's why I don't know if Bali is a city or a country.